Have you ever stopped to wonder why being too friendly to men sometimes feels like a trap instead of a blessing? Why, despite all your kindness and warmth, you often end up feeling drained, misunderstood, or even taken for granted? It's a question many women don't ask themselves, but it holds the key to a deeper understanding of relationships, respect, and most importantly, self-worth. This isn't just about manners or social niceties. It's about protecting your energy and your heart in a world that often confuses friendliness with availability. Let's start with a truth that many avoid admitting: being too friendly isn't always a virtue. It sounds harsh, but kindness without boundaries can become your greatest weakness. Why? Because when you give too much, too freely, too quickly, you're teaching others how to treat you. And sometimes what you teach isn't respect, it's expectation. You set a pattern that you are always there, always reachable, always ready to please. But this pattern often leads to disappointment, frustration, and a sense of invisibility in your own life. The moment you realize that being too friendly can leave you vulnerable is the moment you start reclaiming your power. You might wonder why this happens so often. Why do some women naturally give so much, sometimes to their own detriment? It's rooted deep in psychology, within the need to be accepted, to be liked, and to avoid rejection at almost any cost. Society has long taught women to be accommodating, to soften their edges, and to seek approval through warmth. It's a survival mechanism shaped by culture, upbringing, and sometimes painful past experiences. But what if I told you that this very mechanism is backfiring? That the more you try to please, the less you gain the respect and attention you truly deserve. There's a hidden cost to being overly friendly, a cost that drains your emotional reserves and leaves you questioning your worth. It's like watering a garden that never blooms because you keep spreading yourself too thin. You want connection, but what you get is confusion. You want appreciation, but what you receive is entitlement. And the hardest part, often you don't even realize it's happening until you feel exhausted, hurt, or invisible. This video will help you recognize those signs and, more importantly, how to change the story. If you stay with me until the end, I promise you'll discover a new way to think about kindness and boundaries. You'll learn how to protect your heart without shutting down, how to be generous without losing yourself, and how to command respect simply by valuing yourself first. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming wise. Wise in how you give your energy and who deserves it. And that wisdom is the key to unlocking stronger, healthier relationships, not only with men, but with everyone in your life. Think about the last time you felt that sharp sting of disappointment after being too friendly. Maybe you reached out first, offered help, or showed warmth, only to be met with indifference or even exploitation. It hurts because you gave your best, your time, your kindness, your trust, and it wasn't returned. But here's the secret: it's never about your kindness being too much. It's about the timing and the target. You must learn to protect your kindness like the rare and precious gift it is. There's a powerful psychological principle at play here. Humans respond to how you make them feel about themselves. When you are too available, too easy to please, it can make others feel less motivated to value you. It's not because they're bad people. It's how human psychology works. We respect what challenges us. We crave what is not easily given. When kindness is handed out like a free ticket, it loses its value. This is why being overly friendly can sometimes push people away instead of drawing them closer. But this doesn't mean you have to stop being kind. Far from it. Kindness is strength. Compassion is power. The difference lies in who you give it to and how. It's about creating boundaries that protect your soul. It's about saying no without guilt. It's about understanding that your energy is a currency, valuable, finite, and worth guarding. When you grasp this, you transform from someone who is too friendly into someone who is wisely kind, a person who attracts respect naturally. Because respect flows from self-respect. Remember, you don't have to lose yourself to be loved or liked. You don't need to stretch yourself thin to make others comfortable. Real strength lies in knowing your worth and standing firm in your truth. When you stop being too friendly, when you stop giving away your power, you open the door to deeper connections. Connections where you are seen, heard, and valued exactly as you are. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one where kindness meets courage and boundaries become the bridge to genuine respect. Stay with this video because what's coming next will help you understand how your actions shape others' behavior toward you. You'll learn the subtle signs that show when friendliness is crossing the line and how to reset that balance with confidence. By the end, you'll feel empowered to rewrite your story, to stop being just nice and start being unshakable. Because you deserve that. You deserve respect. You deserve a life where your kindness is honored, not exploited. This is more than advice. It's a mindset shift rooted in the deepest parts of human psychology and motivation. It's a call to action to protect your peace, your energy, and your heart. So, if you're ready to take control and stop being too friendly in a way that harms you, keep watching. Your journey to strength starts now. Why do so many women fall into the trap of over-giving, especially when it comes to men? It's not simply about kindness or goodwill. There is a deep psychological pull that drives this behavior, something rooted in our need for acceptance and belonging. From a young age, many women are taught that being agreeable, warm, and friendly is the key to connection and safety. It's a lesson wired into the way society views femininity. Be gentle, be accommodating, be easy to like. But underneath that well-meaning advice lies a dangerous pattern, one that can cost you your confidence, your peace, and sometimes even your happiness. At its core, this urge to be too friendly comes from a fear many women don't openly admit: the fear of rejection. The thought of being ignored, disliked, or excluded can feel unbearable. So, the instinct becomes to give more, to be more approachable, to lower your guard and hope that the kindness you offer will buy you security. This is a natural human response because we all want to belong, to be accepted by the people around us. But here's the catch: when kindness becomes a currency to secure acceptance, it loses its power. It becomes less about who you truly are and more about who you think others want you to be. This leads to what psychologists call people pleasing, a behavior where you prioritize others' feelings over your own needs. It's a hard pattern to break because it feels safe in the moment, better to be liked than risk conflict or loneliness. But over time, this erodes your sense of self. You start to feel like a shadow, always adjusting to others, never fully showing up as your authentic self. And with men, this can be especially complicated. Too much friendliness can blur the lines, confuse intentions, and create an emotional imbalance where your kindness is taken for granted, or worse, exploited. What many don't realize is that the desire to be liked is a double-edged sword. On one side, it draws people closer, but on the other, it opens you up to being overlooked or disrespected. This happens because when you constantly seek approval through friendliness, you send a silent message that your boundaries are flexible and your energy is always available. Men, like anyone else, respond not just to words, but to the energy you project. If your energy says, "I'm always here," they may unconsciously take that for granted. Respect, admiration, and genuine interest are often reserved for what feels scarce or difficult to obtain. There's also something deeper at play. When you're too friendly, you might unintentionally communicate that you don't value your own time and attention. And if you don't value these things, why should anyone else? The truth is, respect starts with how you treat yourself. Your energy is precious. It's not a gift to be given away without thought. When you hold your energy tightly, when you are selective about how and to whom you give your time and warmth, you build an invisible boundary that says, "I am worthy of respect." Over-giving can sometimes be a form of self-betrayal because it puts others' needs above your own well-being. Imagine pouring water from an empty cup. You end up dry, tired, and unable to give your best to anyone, including yourself. When you are too friendly, you risk losing touch with your own desires, limits, and sense of identity. This is why being kind without boundaries doesn't just hurt your relationships with others, it hurts your relationship with yourself. It's important to understand that kindness is not weakness. Genuine kindness is powerful. It is a strength that comes from confidence and self-awareness. The problem arises when kindness becomes unconditional in a way that harms you. When it means saying yes, when you want to say no. When it means sacrificing your own peace to avoid discomfort. This is no longer kindness. It's compliance. And compliance breeds resentment and burnout. One of the greatest lessons in life is learning to balance kindness with self-respect. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary. Boundaries protect your energy and your emotional health. They teach others how to treat you by showing what you will and will not accept. When you start to honor your own limits, you create a space where genuine kindness can thrive, kindness that is respected and appreciated, not taken for granted. There's a psychological truth here that's worth embracing. People respect what they have to work for. When you make yourself too available, you unintentionally remove the challenge, the mystery, and the value of your presence. Men, like everyone else, are wired to respect those who show strength by valuing themselves. When you stop being too friendly in a way that diminishes you, you start to command respect effortlessly. This doesn't mean shutting people out or becoming cold. It means learning to be discerning with your kindness. It means protecting your peace and energy without guilt. It means understanding that you are not responsible for everyone's happiness, especially at the cost of your own. When you practice this, you don't just change how men see you, you change how you see yourself. And that transformation is the foundation of lasting confidence and true connection. It's normal to want to be liked, but it's even more important to want to be respected. By yourself first, then by others. The shift from seeking approval to demanding respect is the turning point that frees you from the exhaustion of over-giving. You stop chasing validation and start living with purpose. Imagine the freedom of knowing your worth without needing constant reassurance. Imagine the power of kindness that uplifts you instead of draining you. This is the energy you cultivate when you stop being too friendly to men, not cold or distant, but strong and grounded. Remember, kindness without boundaries is like a door left wide open. Strength with boundaries is a fortress that invites only what serves your highest good. This is your journey, not to become less kind, but to become wisely kind. To give your warmth only where it is valued and respected. Because your time, your energy, and your heart are your most precious gifts. Guard them fiercely. This understanding will change everything. The way you interact, the way you feel, and the way you attract people into your life. When you learn to balance kindness with strength, you create relationships built on respect, honesty, and genuine connection. You become a woman who is not just friendly, but unforgettable. There is a line, a subtle but powerful boundary, that separates being genuinely friendly from losing yourself completely in the act of pleasing others. Many women don't realize when they cross it because kindness often feels natural and effortless. But the moment kindness starts to cost your peace, your time, or your sense of identity, it becomes self-betrayal. This is the place where being stops serving you and starts harming you. When you lose yourself in trying to be friendly, you're essentially giving away pieces of your power. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay present when your heart wants to step back. You listen when you should be speaking up for yourself. This pattern slowly erodes your boundaries and your self-respect. It's easy to mistake this for being a good person, but it's something much more complicated. The truth is, kindness without boundaries can become a prison where you are trapped in other people's expectations. Think about it every time you say yes out of obligation. Every time you suppress your true feelings to avoid conflict, you teach others that your needs don't matter. And when people learn that, they start to take you for granted. You become the one who's always available, the person who never refuses, the safe option for everyone's convenience. But deep down, this makes you invisible. Your voice gets lost in the noise of being too accommodating. This is why understanding the difference between being friendly and being over-friendly is so crucial. Friendly is a choice. It's a gift you give intentionally, knowing your limits. The over-friendly is often a reaction, an automatic habit born from fear of rejection or desire to be liked. One feels empowering, the other exhausting. When you cross that boundary, it's not just about how others treat you, it's about how you start to see yourself. Your self-worth becomes tangled with how much you give, how many people you please, and how little you say no. This is dangerous because your value becomes conditional on others' acceptance. And when your value depends on external approval, you lose the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path leads to kindness with clear boundaries, where you can be warm without sacrificing your peace. The other leads to overgiving, where you lose your voice and your power. Choosing the first path means deciding to honor yourself first. It means recognizing that your feelings, needs, and limits matter just as much as anyone else's. This is not selfishness, it's self-care. It's the foundation of true kindness. Every boundary you set is a declaration. I respect myself enough to protect my heart. It may feel uncomfortable at first because you're breaking old habits and patterns. People who are used to your constant availability might push back or feel confused. But that's because you're disrupting their expectations. And that's a good thing. It means you're creating space for healthier, more balanced relationships. Boundaries do not push people away. They attract the right people. When you stop being too friendly to everyone and start being intentionally kind to those who deserve it, you send a message that you are not a resource to be exploited. You become someone whose energy is valued, and that value commands respect. This is where self-betrayal ends and self-respect begins. When you realize that your kindness must have limits, you start to see your relationships in a new light. You stop accepting one-sided connections where you give endlessly and receive little. You stop apologizing for protecting your time and energy. You begin to honor yourself by choosing who you invest in and who you don't. It's important to remember that setting boundaries isn't about building walls, it's about building bridges that connect you to others on your terms. When you are clear about your limits, you create safe spaces where genuine kindness can flourish. People can trust that your kindness is real because it comes from a place of strength, not weakness. This clarity also changes your inner dialogue. Instead of thinking, I must be friendly to keep them liking me, you start to say, I deserve respect, and I will protect my energy. This shift in mindset is transformational because it rewires how you interact with the world. It empowers you to say no without guilt, to walk away without regret, and to love yourself fiercely. The danger of ignoring this boundary is that you stay stuck in a cycle of exhaustion and frustration. You become a caretaker for everyone else's emotions but neglect your own. Over time, this leads to burnout and resentment. You may find yourself questioning why you're always giving but never getting back the respect or care you deserve. But when you honor this boundary, something beautiful happens. You start to attract people who appreciate you, not for what you do for them, but for who you are. You build connections based on mutual respect and genuine interest. Your friendships and relationships become sources of strength, not stress. This boundary also protects your emotional health. It shields you from manipulation, from being taken for granted, and from feeling invisible. When you know your limits and enforce them, you create a shield around your heart that says, I am valuable. I am worthy. I am enough. In the end, the key to stopping self-betrayal is learning to say no, not just to others, but to the inner voice that tells you to overextend, to people please, and to ignore your own needs. Saying no is not rejection, it's protection. It's choosing yourself in a world that often asks you to choose everyone else first. Kindness without boundaries is like a river without banks. It floods and destroys. Kindness with boundaries is a river that nourishes everything it touches because it flows with purpose and strength. This is the difference between being lost in friendliness and being powerfully kind. So, The next time you feel the urge to say yes just to keep the peace or to please someone, pause and ask yourself, am I crossing my boundary? Am I betraying my own needs for the sake of being friendly? When you learn to answer these questions honestly, you start to protect your energy and reclaim your power. This boundary is your armor. It's your shield. It's your first step toward a life where kindness is respected, where your heart is safe, and where you shine brightly without losing yourself in the process. Your kindness deserves that. You deserve that. And it all begins with choosing yourself first. Every choice you make sends a message, not just with your words, but with your energy, your actions, your presence. When you are too friendly to men, constantly available, always accommodating, you are sending a clear message about how you expect to be treated. And this message shapes their behavior toward you more than you might realize. There's a powerful psychological truth. You teach people how to treat you. This doesn't mean you control others, but you set the tone, the boundaries, and the energy that others respond to. When you say yes too often, when you ignore your own needs to please others, you are unconsciously telling the world that your boundaries are flexible. You become the person who is easy to take advantage of because you make it easy. Your friendliness becomes a permission slip for others to cross your limits. Men, like anyone else, are sensitive to these signals. They read your friendliness as an open door, an invitation to take what they want without considering your feelings. This is not about men being bad or good. It's about human nature responding to the signals you send. If you always say yes, they learn they don't have to ask twice. If you are always available, they learn they don't have to prioritize you. If you never set limits, they learn there are none. The truth is, respect doesn't come from being the easiest person to approach or the one who is always ready to give. Respect comes from being someone who values themselves. When you honor your own boundaries, when you communicate clearly what you will and will not accept, you create an energy that demands respect. Men will notice. They will respond differently, not because you've changed who you are, but because you've changed how you show up. This is a crucial point. Respect starts with you. If you don't respect yourself, others won't either. It sounds simple, but it's easy to forget in the everyday flow of life. When you constantly prioritize others over yourself, you're telling your brain that your needs are less important. This weakens your self-image and lowers your confidence. Over time, this creates a vicious cycle where you feel invisible and undervalued because you don't show the world your true worth. Changing this starts with awareness. Notice how often you say yes when your heart says no. Notice how often you put others' comfort above your own. This awareness is the first step to reclaiming your power. Once you recognize that your friendliness might be sending the wrong message, you can begin to adjust your behavior consciously. Setting boundaries is not about being rude or unkind. It's about being honest with yourself and others. It's about protecting your energy and your self-respect. When you start saying no to things that drain you or don't serve you, you send a clear message you matter. And when you matter, respect follows naturally. Think about the people in your life who respect you the most. Chances are, they are the ones who see you as a person with limits, needs, and boundaries. They don't expect you to be at their beck and call. They appreciate your time and effort because you give it selectively. This is the power of teaching people how to treat you. There is also an important difference between being friendly and being available. You can be warm, kind, and genuine without being a doormat. Availability means your energy is always at someone else's disposal, often at the expense of your own well-being. Friendliness with boundaries means you engage with people on your terms, preserving your strength and dignity. When you start to hold this line firmly, you'll notice a shift. People who genuinely care about you will respect your limits and appreciate your kindness. Those who don't will show their true colors. And that's a gift, because it frees you from wasting energy on people who don't deserve it. This isn't about building walls or pushing people away. It's about drawing clear lines that protect your heart You are not responsible for everyone's feelings or comfort. You are responsible for your own peace and happiness. When you teach people how to treat you, you create relationships based on mutual respect, not obligation. Remember, your energy is valuable. It's your most precious resource. When you are too friendly without boundaries, you risk depleting this resource and leaving yourself emotionally bankrupt. But when you hold your energy with care and intention, you become magnetic. You attract the kind of respect and love that fuels your soul. Men respect women who respect themselves. This respect isn't earned by constant friendliness or availability. It's earned by strength, clarity, and self-worth. When you show that you value yourself, men will mirror that respect back to you. This doesn't mean you have to change your personality or stop being kind. It means you choose kindness wisely. You decide who deserves your warmth and when. You stop giving to those who take without giving back. You reclaim your time, your peace, and your power. In the end, you hold the key to how you are treated. The moment you stop being too friendly and start being wisely kind, you shift the entire dynamic of your relationships. You stop being the easy option and become someone who commands respect effortlessly. This change starts with small choices every day, saying no when it's right, walking away when it's necessary, and valuing yourself enough to set clear boundaries. These choices build your confidence and your presence. They create an energy that others can't ignore. Your friendliness is a gift. Protect it by choosing when and to whom you give it. This is how you teach men and everyone else how to treat you. Respect begins with you. Respect begins with your boundaries. Respect begins when you stop being too friendly and start being powerfully kind. One of the most misunderstood ideas about kindness and friendliness is that being nice means never saying no. But this is a dangerous myth that often leads women into patterns of overextending themselves, especially with men. Saying yes to everything, smiling through discomfort, and suppressing your true feelings might seem like the right thing to do, but it quietly chips away at your inner strength. Over time, this constant sacrifice of your own needs builds resentment, exhaustion, and a deep sense of being undervalued. The truth is, every no you say is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. Saying no doesn't make you unkind or unfriendly. It makes you honest and strong. This honesty is the foundation of meaningful relationships because it creates space for genuine connection where both people show up fully, without pretending or sacrificing themselves. When you avoid saying no because you fear losing someone's approval or because you don't want to hurt their feelings, you are putting their comfort above your well-being. This may feel noble at first, but it teaches others that your boundaries are negotiable. Over time, this can turn into a cycle where you give more and more, while receiving less and less in return. Men, like anyone else, naturally gravitate toward those who demonstrate strength and clarity. Saying no is part of showing that strength. It's important to understand that saying no is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. It doesn't come naturally to many women who have been conditioned to prioritize harmony over honesty. But with practice, saying no becomes easier, and your confidence grows. You begin to recognize that you don't have to explain or justify your boundaries to anyone. Your no is enough. When you say no, you also create space for better opportunities, relationships, friendships, and connections that honor your worth. Saying yes to everything crowds your life with demands that drain you and leaves little room for the people and things that truly matter. By learning to say no, you protect your energy for those who deserve it most. Many women fear that saying no will lead to rejection or loneliness. But ironically, the opposite is true. When you honor yourself by setting boundaries and saying no when necessary, you attract people who respect you deeply. You stop chasing approval from those who don't appreciate you and start inviting in those who value you fully. This process requires courage because it challenges old patterns and fears. It means facing the discomfort of disappointing others or risking conflict. But the discomfort of setting boundaries is temporary. The cost of not setting boundaries, of continuing to be too friendly and overavailable, is much greater. It leads to emotional depletion, loss of self, and relationships that feel draining and one-sided. Saying no also changes the way you see yourself. Instead of being a people pleaser who is defined by others' approval, you become a woman who defines herself by her values and self-respect. This shift transforms your energy and presence. You become magnetic, not because you are trying to be, but because you have reclaimed your power. Men are wired to respect women who respect themselves. When you are clear about your boundaries, you show strength without aggression, kindness without weakness. This balance creates an irresistible energy, a quiet confidence that says, I know my worth, and I will not settle for less. It's also vital to recognize that boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They are about saying yes to yourself. Every time you protect your time, your feelings, and your energy, you are choosing yourself. You are prioritizing your happiness and your peace. This is an act of love toward yourself that strengthens your spirit and builds resilience. The people who truly belong in your life will honor these boundaries. They will appreciate your kindness because it is given freely and not taken for granted. They will respect your no because it is a sign of your self-worth. And they will value your presence because it is rare and precious. On the other hand, those who resist your boundaries or try to guilt you into overextending are showing you who they really are. This is a powerful insight because it helps you make clearer choices about who deserves your kindness and who doesn't. Protecting yourself is not about pushing people away. It's about making room for the right people to stay. The more you practice saying no and setting boundaries, the stronger your sense of self becomes. You stop living to please others and start living to honor yourself. This is not arrogance, it is authenticity. It is the truest form of kindness because it comes from a place of wholeness, not depletion. You don't have to be perfect at this right away. Every small step toward setting limits is a victory. Every time you choose yourself over pleasing someone else, you build confidence and reclaim your power. Over time, these small acts of courage create a life where you are not defined by how friendly you are, but by how much you value yourself. Kindness with boundaries creates freedom. Freedom to be yourself without fear of rejection. Freedom to give without losing yourself. Freedom to love without sacrificing your dignity. This freedom is priceless, and it starts with a simple but powerful choice to stop being too friendly to men and start being kindly strong. Your time, your energy, your heart, they are gifts meant for you to protect. Saying no is your shield. It is your way of saying, I deserve respect. I deserve love that honors me. When you embrace this truth, your relationships transform. You attract respect, appreciation, and genuine connection. Because kindness that comes from strength and self-respect is unstoppable, there is a hidden cost to being too friendly, a cost that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. When you constantly put others' needs before your own, especially men's, you start to lose touch with your own identity. This loss is subtle at first. It might feel like exhaustion, frustration, or confusion. But deep down, it's a sign that you're sacrificing your true self for the sake of being liked, accepted, or loved. Human psychology shows us that identity is built through boundaries. Boundaries tell us where we end and where others begin. Without clear boundaries, your sense of self becomes blurry. You begin to adapt, to change, to mold yourself around other people's expectations. This might feel like being friendly, but it's actually losing yourself in the process. When you are too friendly, especially to men, you often forget to check in with your own feelings. You ignore your discomfort, silence your doubts, and override your intuition. This disconnect leads to a dangerous pattern where you rely on external validation to feel worthy. Instead of trusting yourself, you start seeking approval from others. And this need for approval can become addictive, trapping you in a cycle of people pleasing that never truly satisfies. The moment you lose your identity in trying to be friendly, you open the door to manipulation. People sense when you are unsure of yourself or when you depend on their acceptance. They may unconsciously or consciously take advantage of your kindness. This is not a reflection of your value, but a reflection of how your energy is being read. Without strong boundaries, your friendliness can be mistaken for weakness. This is why reclaiming your identity is essential. It means learning to recognize your own needs and feelings as valid and important. It means tuning into your inner voice and trusting it above external opinions. When you start doing this, you build a foundation of self-awareness that makes it easier to say no, to protect your energy, and to stop being overly friendly just to fit in. Identity is not something fixed. It's something you actively create every day through your choices. When you choose kindness with boundaries, you choose yourself first. You declare that your feelings matter. You declare that your limits are non-negotiable. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become whole and grounded. Psychology teaches that a strong identity leads to healthier relationships. When you know who you are and what you want, you attract people who respect that. You stop wasting time on those who drain you or disrespect your boundaries. You create space for connections based on mutual respect and authenticity. One powerful way to reclaim your identity is through self-reflection. Take moments to ask yourself, what do I really want? What are my limits? When do I feel uncomfortable? What makes me feel alive? Answering these questions honestly is like shining a light inside your soul. It helps you distinguish between true kindness and over-friendly behavior that harms you. Another important part of reclaiming your identity is learning to trust your intuition. Your gut feelings are powerful guides. They tell you when something feels right or wrong, safe or unsafe. When you ignore these signals to be too friendly, you disconnect from your inner wisdom. Over time, this weakens your confidence and your ability to protect yourself. Reclaiming your identity also means embracing your right to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect in setting boundaries. You will slip up, feel guilty, or worry about hurting others. This is normal. What matters is that you keep practicing, keep learning, and keep prioritizing your well-being. The strongest women are not those who never say yes or no. They are those who know when to say each. They are women who stand firm in their truth, even when it's uncomfortable. They are women who protect their hearts fiercely and love themselves deeply. When you reclaim your identity, you stop living according to others' expectations. You stop being a reflection of what others want you to be. Instead, you become the author of your own story, writing it with courage, honesty, and self-love. This transformation changes everything. Your energy shifts from exhaustion to vitality. Your relationships shift from imbalance to harmony. Your mind shifts from doubt to clarity. And your heart shifts from fear to freedom. Remember, your identity is your most valuable treasure. It's the core of who you are. Being too friendly may have made you forget this, but it's never too late to remember. You are worthy of respect, kindness, and love, starting with how you treat yourself. The path to reclaiming your identity begins with small steps. Setting one clear boundary, speaking your truth in one conversation, choosing yourself over pleasing someone else. Each of these steps rebuilds your connection with who you truly are. As you reconnect with your identity, you will notice something powerful. The need to be overly friendly fades away. You don't need to please everyone anymore. Your kindness becomes a choice, not a habit. Your energy is protected, and your spirit is free. This freedom is the reward you deserve. It's the reward for stopping the cycle of over-friendliness and stepping into your true power. It's the reward for loving yourself enough to say no, to set limits, and to honor your soul. You have the strength within you. You have the wisdom to reclaim your identity. And when you do, you create a life where kindness and strength coexist beautifully, where you are respected, loved, and most importantly, true to yourself.